Incredible discovery, homeless heroine saves child from blaze. Moments later, CEO's life changed forever. Sarah hunched over in the dimly lit alley, her fingers scouring through the debris for an aluminum can. The distant laughter of children echoed from a nearby house, lighting up her heart like an unexpected sunrise. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel the warmth of that joy, contrasting sharply with her chilly existence on the streets. Memories of laughter filled her mind, reminding her of happier times. Her heart tightened, sensing the protectiveness that blossomed within her. But just as quickly as the laughter danced through her thoughts, it shattered like glass. A thick plume of smoke suddenly billowed into the sky, twisting toward the heavens and piercing her heart with immediate dread. The fire surged and raged from the very place that had given her a glimpse of happiness. Without thinking, her instincts kicked in. She sprinted toward the flames, her heart pounding with adrenaline and hope. Inside the blazing house, panoramic chaos greeted her like an unwelcome ally. Flames licked at the walls, and acrid smoke stung her eyes. "Help!" a voice cried. It was a child. Her heart raced as it guided her, "Follow the sound." Moving through the inferno, adrenaline coursing through her veins, she suddenly spotted the figure of a little girl Lily huddled on the floor, tears streaking her soot-stained face. With a burst of determination, Sarah wrapped her arms around Lily, securing the child against her chest. "Hold on tight," she yelled, her voice barely cutting through the roar of fire. Panic momentarily seized her as she turned back, facing the flames as they twisted like angry serpents. But she had to keep going. She had to save Lily. With swift, desperate strides, they made their way to the door, past the suffocating smoke and searing heat, and finally outside. Tom, Lily's father, stood helplessly at the curb, his well-tailored suit a sharp contrast to the chaos around him. The image of Sarah, a homeless woman, emerging from the flames with his daughter in her arms, halted him in shock. His mind raced with 100 contradictory thoughts, a mix of admiration, disbelief, and frustration. In that moment, his long-held misconceptions about the world crumbled like ash. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the community gathered around the burning house, their faces heckled with awe and disbelief, Tom grappled with his emotions. He felt small compared to Sarah's bravery, her selfless act defying his previously narrow understanding of heroism. With a community celebration nearby that was meant to spotlight corporate success, those calm moments turned electric. The stakes were rising. As the event approached, all eyes turned to Sarah, wondering how their lives would intertwine now. Could Tom, the CEO who prided himself on success, step down from his pedestal? Could he take Sarah's hand and bridge the gap thundering between them, redefining what it meant to care for one another in a polarized world? A flicker of hope ignited within Sarah as the crowd roared. But as Tom faced the truth of his privilege against the backdrop of Sarah's unyielding courage, an electric tension robbed him of breath. No one left unchanged. What script might write their next chapter? As the flames simmered down, whispers of transformation began to rise, leaving anticipation palpable in the air. The energy of the moment hung like thick smoke in the air, but it felt less suffocating now, replaced by a new weight of possibility. Sarah stood in the center of it all, Lily clinging to her like a precious secret. The world around her faded, the clamor of the fire trucks and the whispers of the crowd vanished, leaving only the pounding of her heart and the sweet smell of freedom she had dared to grasp. Tom's eyes were glued on Sarah, a kaleidoscope of emotions swirling within him. Admiration surged through him, breathing life into his stagnant thoughts about wealth and privilege. She had turned the narrative he had long accepted upside down. In the middle of chaos, a woman often overlooked had become the hero of his daughter's story. He had been raised to believe in power and dominance, she had shown him bravery and empathy. "Thank you." He finally managed to choke out, connection crackling through the air as he stepped forward. The words seemed futile in comparison to her action, yet they were all he had at that moment. It was an acknowledgement, a recognition not just of her act of saving Lily but of a life profoundly different from his. Sarah looked at him, her eyes wide with exhaustion, disbelief, and a flicker of hope. "She's safe," she said softly, barely above a whisper. "That's all that matters." But deep down, she felt a stirring inside, a craving for something she hadn't felt in years. The weight of his gaze, once intimidating, now filled her with a warmth she hadn't known since before she lost everything. Could this be the start of a change for her, too? She wanted it to be. Around them, people began to speak, their stunned faces softening into admiration. "Did you see what she did?" one woman exclaimed. "That's real courage." As soon as I saw the flames, Sarah's voice trailed off, the weight of the adrenaline crash washing over her. She felt faint, but Lily's small hand, still tightly clutched in hers, reignited her focus. She tilted her head to see the girl still trembling beside her. "You're safe," Lily, concern washed over Tom's features. "We need to get you two looked at. The smoke, the heat." "I'm okay," Sarah insisted, not wanting to inconvenience anyone else. "I just need some water, maybe." Tom shook his head, determination etched in his brow. "No. You'll do this right. We owe you that much." For the first time, he realized that the veneer of their lives wouldn't matter anymore. What really mattered was the human connection, the shared experience of vulnerability. He reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone. "I'll call for help." As he moved away, Sarah felt small but powerful, rooted in her reality and yet desperately yearning for a different future. This moment, raw and charged, was a turning point in her life. But would it last? What did she want moving forward? The crowd murmured, drawing closer, curiosity igniting their collective attention. They saw two worlds colliding, a CEO and a homeless heroine. What would be the marriage of their paths? Would change ripple out from this life-saving moment? "Sarah, can you talk to us?" a media person shouted, honing in on their fascinating juxtaposition. And as the cameras focused, so did the crowd's energy shift. Understanding and hesitance mingled, intertwining in a dance of human connection. "Maybe it's time to tell your story," Tom suggested quietly, his eyes locking onto hers with a breath of resolve. He knew the risk of exposure but also felt the importance of their shared truth. But what would it mean for Sarah to share her journey? Would vulnerability lead to healing or further scars? The air vibrated with energy, and in this moment of uncertainty, Sarah felt the weight of all possibilities in her hands. What path would she choose? The moment felt surreal, like a scene pulled from a movie that danced between hope and despair. Sarah stood still, rooted in the ground, while chaos swirled around her. The flickering lights of the fire trucks painted the crowd in colors of urgency and concern. But all she could focus on was the weight of Lily's hand in hers, a tangible reminder of her victory in that moment. Tom returned, a cup of water in hand. He knelt before Sarah, offering it like a lifeline. "Here, you need this. Just sip a little." With a shaky hand, she took the cup. As the cool liquid slipped down her throat, she felt a surge of clarity. Looking into Tom's eyes, she could see something deeper there, a reflection of all that had occurred and the potential of what could be. "I never thought," she started, her voice barely above a whisper, "that anyone would care." Tom shook his head, urgency bleeding through. "You deserve to be heard. People need to know. You're more than just a woman on the street." The crowd was thick with tension, each face reflecting a spectrum of emotions, admiration, curiosity, disbelief. Sarah could feel their eyes on her, a collective interest that both intimidated and electrified her. Part of her wanted to hide, to shrink back into the shadows she had long occupied. But another part, the part that had jumped through flames to save a child, felt a yearning for connection, for recognition, and it was rising in her like a tide. "I don't know if my story matters," she admitted, glancing at the cameras that were capturing every nuance of the moment. "What could possibly be inspiring about my life?" "More than you think," Tom said firmly, pulling her focus back to him. "You've shown so much strength. People need to see that." His conviction ignited a spark inside her. Maybe there was truth to what he said. Maybe her battles mattered. She had fought to survive on the streets, faced rejection, and yet here she was standing before a crowd as a hero. The fear of sharing her past began to slip away, replaced with a courage she thought had been extinguished long ago. "Can you tell me what happened?" Tom prompted, his tone gentle but insistent, as if they were already writing the first paragraph of a new chapter. Sarah took a breath, her chest tightening at the idea of unveiling her scars. "I grew up in a small town. My family wasn't rich, but we had each other." She hesitated, memories rushing forward, jostling for attention. "Then life just changed. I lost everything. Family, home. I thought I'd never find my way back." The crowd leaned in closer, a collective breath held as she spoke. For the first time in years, tears brimmed in her eyes, not from pain, but from the relief of transparency. She could feel Tom's steady gaze on her, anchoring her through the storm of her emotions. "Your journey isn't over yet," he said softly, bringing her focus back. "This could be a chance for something amazing. You've already saved Lily, maybe it's time to save yourself." The words wrapped around her heart. Could she really take that step? Could sharing her truth open doors to a brighter future? Just then, an officer approached, breaking the momentary spell. "We need you to come with us, ma'am," he said, directing his attention at Sarah. "We want to ensure you're okay, and we need your statement about the incident." Panic tinged Sarah's thoughts, but there was a flicker of resolve inside her. This was at the beginning of something new. She glanced at Tom and saw the encouragement in his expression. "Okay," she replied, her voice stronger now. "I'll do it." As she turned to walk away, leaving the chaos behind her momentarily, Sarah felt a sense of optimism wrap around her like a familiar embrace. Maybe it was time to rewrite her story, to claim the voice she had buried for far too long. What would happen if she took this leap? Would she uncover a strength she never knew she had? And as the officer led her toward the waiting vehicle, her heart raced with questions that only the future could answer. As they walked away from the crowd, Sarah felt the heat of the cameras follow her like a persistent shadow. The officer's grip was firm but reassuring, guiding her toward the back of a police cruiser. She took deep breaths, the cool evening air filling her lungs as she tried to calm the frantic beat of her heart. The officer, a woman with kind eyes, opened the door and gestured for Sarah to step inside. As she climbed onto the vinyl seat, she felt the weight of the world settle around her. The inside of the cruiser smelled sterile and foreign, muffling the sounds of the chaos outside. "Just a few questions, ma'am," the officer said, taking the front seat. "Can you tell me exactly what you saw? What led to the fire?" It was strange, being asked for her story in this way. Growing up, no one ever asked her. In the dim light of the cruiser, she began to piece together the events of that day. I was just passing by, and I saw the flames. I could hear someone screaming." Her voice shook as she recalled the sight of the fire engulfing the building, the rush, and the thrill that propelled her forward. "I didn't think. I just acted. I had to save Lily. She was trapped." Her mother Sarah paused, the memory flooding her anew, the horror of it threatening to swallow her whole. The officer leaned in slightly, gentle but alert. "It's okay. You did a brave thing. We're just trying to piece everything together." Bravery. It felt surreal to hear that word directed at her. She shifted in her seat, the hard edges of the world softening just a bit in that moment. "I just did what anyone would do," she murmured, disbelief tinging her voice. The officer shook her head. Not everyone has the courage to act when it counts. Most people would freeze in fear. You didn't. Suddenly, flashes of the crowd returned to Sarah's mind, faces filled with admiration and awe. Could it be? Had she really changed how people saw her? At that moment, she realized her moment of truth wasn't just about saving a child, it was also about claiming her own life back from the shadows. I just want to make sure Lily is okay, Sarah blurted, anxiety racing through her. Is she safe? The officer nodded. Yes, she's in good hands. You did a remarkable thing today. Unease settled back in, mixing with a strange sense of pride that began to blossom in her chest. Thank you, she said softly. The officer began jotting down notes about the incident, and for a moment, Sarah became aware of the quiet hum of her own thoughts. Did she truly want to reclaim her story? Life had been harsh, a relentless battle against circumstances that felt insurmountable. Yet, at that moment, with the scent of smoke still clinging to her clothes and the flicker of flames still vivid in her mind, the first hints of hope began to unfurl. What happens now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The officer placed her pen down and considered Sarah with a thoughtful gaze. Now, we follow the leads. But you have options too. There are groups that help people like you, connecting you with resources, finding shelter, and even job training. Suddenly, the vulnerability of her situation enveloped her again like a thick fog. There were possibilities ahead, yet they felt daunting. I don't even know where to start, Sarah said, an edge of panic creeping back. The officer responded with a warm smile. One step at a time. Today, you took a huge leap. Tomorrow can be different, too. As they sat in that cruiser, a flicker of determination ignited inside Sarah. Today had changed everything, it was the spark of her transformation. But what would she do next? The path seemed long and fraught with challenges, but she knew deep down, she had the strength to face whatever came. As she gazed out the window at the shimmering city lights, she couldn't help but wonder. Could she really break free from her past? Could this mark the moment she finally embraced her potential? And with a pounding heart, Sarah felt the weight of a new journey beginning, one she was determined to explore, both for herself and Lily. What if stepping into the light meant leaving the dark behind for good? She took a deep breath, ready to find out just how high she could soar. The sound of sirens brought Sarah out of her thoughts, snapping her back to the present moment. Outside the cruiser, the chaos had calmed, but the flickering of lights still reflected a world in crisis. She could see the flickering hues bouncing off the faces of emergency responders as they tended to the aftermath of the fire. It was overwhelming, but strangely invigorating, like she was part of a story larger than herself. Hey, the officer called gently, bringing Sarah back again. Let us focus. Can you tell me more about what happened? Every detail counts. Sarah nodded, pulling herself together. Right. I remember there was this man. He was yelling for help. I didn't understand at the time, but he was trying to get someone out of the building. She struggled to find the words, her brow furrowing as she tried to sift through the chaos in her mind. I didn't even think twice. I just ran. The officer listened intently. What was going through your mind as you ran in? I don't know, honestly, she admitted, a shadow passing over her features. Maybe it was instinct. I just felt like if I didn't do something, I'd regret it forever. Her voice cracked slightly. No one should feel trapped like that. The officer nodded with understanding, but Sarah's thoughts began to blur. The moment of bravery felt distant now, and she can't help but wonder if she'd muster the same courage again when the next crisis struck. You've got a good heart, Sarah, the officer said softly. That's something to hold on to while you're figuring everything out. Sarah felt a flicker of warmth at the compliment but buried it under a heavier cloak of self-doubt. How could she hold on to anything when for so long she had struggled just to survive? Would today be the start of something new, or would she be pulled back into the shadows that had haunted her for too long? What about Lily? She asked suddenly. I need to know she's going to be okay. She's in the hospital now, with doctors looking after her, the officer replied, and relief washed over Sarah like a cool breeze. You should know her mother got her out before it spread too badly. They're safe. Thank God, she thought. The realization that she had played a role in that safety sparked something within her, an ember of strength. But then, what next? Was being a hero just a momentary experience, or could it lead to lasting change in her life? They sat in the uneasy silence for what felt like an eternity, and Sarah looked out the window again. The neon lights illuminated the city in a way that felt both foreign and inviting. Have you thought about what you want to do next? The officer asked softly, breaking the silence. Sarah hesitated, her mind racing. I want to help kids. I want to be there for people who feel afraid, who feel trapped. I want to show them they can get out too. That's a noble goal, the officer said. You might find programs that can help you get there. But it all starts with your own path. Sarah pondered over the officer's words. Was it really possible to change the narrative of her life this late in the game? A thought crossed her mind, connecting her pain with purpose could lead to something remarkable. As she imagined what her future might hold, maybe helping kids like Lily, fear and hope danced a delicate waltz in her heart. I'm scared, she finally admitted. But I think I want to try. The officer smiled, a reassuring glow in her eyes. That's how it starts. You acknowledge fear and you still push forward. It's what brave people do. In that moment, Sarah realized bravery wasn't just about the dramatic acts of saving lives. It was also about facing her own fears, about stepping toward a future that felt uncertain but full of possibility. And as they remained parked in that quiet space, Sarah felt the weight lift just a bit. The world outside might still be chaotic, but inside her, something was shifting. With a heart like a drum, Sarah thought about the people she could help, about the new chapters she wanted to write, not just for herself, but for Lily and others like her. What if she could stop just being a momentary hero, and become a beacon of hope instead? But in pursuing that vision, could she risk losing herself in the process? Sarah sat in the back of the cruiser, still caught in a haze of thoughts and emotions swirling like the smoke that had filled the building just hours earlier. The sirens faded into the distance, but the potential for transformation echoed in her mind. What did it really mean to help others? What would it feel like to give back, to step beyond her own struggles and live for a cause? Her thoughts were broken by the gentle voice of the officer. I know it feels overwhelming. Just take it one step at a time. Yeah, Sarah murmured, lost in the weight of possibility. She stared at her hands, rough and worn from years of trying to survive on the streets. But I've never been someone important. Who would want to listen to me? You'd be surprised. The officer leaned closer, earnestness radiating from her. People often underestimate the power of experience. Sharing your story could inspire others. Every journey starts from somewhere. A flicker of resolve ignited in Sarah, and she clenched her fists tightly, as if trying to grasp that elusive strength. Maybe, but what if I mess up? What if I'm just not cut out for this? Then you learn from it, the officer replied, her tone steady. Nobody has it figured out all at once. Look at how you acted today. You didn't let fear stop you. The praise washed over Sarah like a wave. It was a foreign feeling, a glimmer of hope that perhaps she could carve out a new path. She took a deep breath, the smell of charred wood lingering in her senses, a reminder of where she had just come from. I guess I want to try to make a difference. For Lily, for myself. And that's more powerful than you realize, the officer said. But remember, it starts with small steps. Reach out to local shelters, community centers. They need passionate voices. Right, Sarah whispered, envisioning her feet moving towards something new, something brighter than the dull routine of survival. I could do that. With the realization that her past didn't have to dictate her future, Sarah felt something shift inside her. She imagined a room full of kids, smiles on their faces, and stories waiting to be shared. For the first time in a long while, she could see the outlines of a dream taking shape. But just as her heart swelled with hope, it sank again at the thought of her old life. But what about my mistakes? I don't want my past to haunt me. Your past is part of you, your story, the officer reminded her. But it doesn't define who you can become. Share your truths, and you may find others who've been through similar struggles. It builds connections. Sarah nodded slowly. Perhaps, in sharing her journey, she could help others make it through their own dark times. It was frightening, yet exhilarating. Leaning against the cool metal of the cruiser, she began to feel a flicker of purpose rising. It mixed with her lingering pain, creating an unexpected fuel to forge ahead. Just then, a commotion caught her attention. A group of reporters had gathered nearby, flashbulbs popping and voices raised in excitement. Incredible discovery, homeless heroine saves child from blaze. One shouted, a microphone thrust into the air. A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. Was that really her being branded as a hero? She felt a mix of pride and vulnerability. Would people see the truth behind her actions, or would they just see a label? Before she could ponder further, she noticed the officer giving her a gentle smile, as if urging her to embrace it. What if, despite the title, she could use the attention to push forward? To inspire others with her story? As she wrestled with these thoughts, a ripple of anxiety passed through her. What if the light they shone on her became too bright? Would it burn her out or illuminate a new path? The officer squeezed her shoulder with understanding. It's your moment, Sarah. Use it wisely. And in that moment, with the chaos around her melding into a focus on her potential, Sarah's heart raced with possibilities. The officer's words sparked a daring idea, maybe becoming that beacon of hope could start right now. Would she embrace the whirlwind ahead and step boldly into the unknown, or retreat back into the shadows where she felt safe yet resigned? The flashing lights and booming voices from the reporters felt like a storm brewing around Sarah. She could barely think straight. The world beyond the cruiser spun with energy, and all she could hear were the praises ringing in her ears. Hero. The word felt strange and heavy, like an ill-fitting coat. Sarah. A familiar voice called. She turned, spotting Lily's bright eyes peeking through the crowd behind the police line. Her little sister waved frantically, trying to break through the wall of journalists. The sight of her brought a rush of warmth to Sarah's chest. Was this what she had fought for? Not just the little girl's safety, but also a chance to build something different, something better. Take a deep breath, the officer advised, giving Sarah a reassuring look. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. But as the questions rained down from the reporters, they felt less like genuine curiosity and more like a tidal wave crashing down on her. How does it feel to be a hero? One shouted. What inspired your bravery? Another jumped in. Sarah's throat tightened. I just did what needed to be done, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. But inside, she was screaming. Did they really want to know her story? Did they care about the nights spent hiding in alleyways, shivering against the concrete? Out in the chaos, she noticed Lily finally breaking free. She rushed toward Sarah, her little hands pulling at the edge of her jacket. Sarah. You were amazing. You saved that boy. Sarah, I was just scared, Sarah said, swallowing hard. I didn't even think. I just ran. That's what makes you a hero. Lily said, eyes sparkling with admiration. You ran because you cared. But Sarah could not shake the unease bubbling in her stomach. What kind of hero was she? Someone who had made so many mistakes. Her past loomed like a shadow, threatening to dim the light Lily saw in her. As more reporters turned toward them, it felt like the walls were closing in. The officer beside her shifted, scanning the scene. You don't have to talk to them if you don't want to. But remember, this is a moment to share hope, not just fear. Could she do it? Could she really turn her pain into a message that might help someone else? A part of her was terrified, but another part sparked like a match in the dark. Forcing herself to stand taller, Sarah looked down at her sister. "You're right, Lil. I do care." A new determination filled her as she turned back to the crowd. The fear of her past clashed with a growing sense of purpose and hope. "Hey!" Sarah called out, raising her voice above the noise. "I want to tell my story. But it's not just about being a hero. It's about the people who helped me, who still help me when things got tough. It's about all of us." The noise quieted for a moment, reporters exchanging glances. They leaned forward, listening. With Lily cheering her on, Sarah kept going, her words pouring out as she spoke about her struggles, about the shelters that had provided warmth and kindness. It was like letting go of a weight she'd carried for too long. She looked into the sea of faces and saw nods of understanding. But when she finished, Sarah felt raw. The past tugged at her, whispering doubts and fears. As the crowd erupted into applause, a voice broke through. "What if someone wanted to help you get started in this new journey?" A man had stepped forward, an older gentleman in a well-tailored suit with kind eyes. "I know a few organizations that could use someone with your heart." Her heart raced. Help? Real help? Could this moment lead her to what she was searching for? And suddenly, as possibilities rushed in like wind against her sail, Sarah felt a flicker of uncertainty. What would she say? Would stepping out of the shadows lead to light, or a new kind of darkness? With a world of hope and fear laid out in front of her, she had to decide, would she accept the hand extended toward her, or retreat back into the life she'd always known? Sarah stood frozen, the words hanging in the air like a fragile promise. The man in the suit extended his hand, his expression deepening with sincerity. The world around her faded for just a moment. He was offering something she'd longed for but never knew how to ask, a chance to start anew, to rise from the turmoil that had defined her. "What do I have to do?" she asked, her voice catching. "Just reach out," he replied, a smile breaking through the tension. "We can set up a meeting. I believe your story can inspire others. You could be a beacon of hope for those still struggling. You don't have to always shoulder your burdens alone." Lily tugged at Sarah's side, her enthusiasm palpable. "Yes, Sarah. Think of all the help we could give. You could make a difference." Sarah's heart thundered. Wasn't that what she had wished for? To escape the weight of her past and finally do something meaningful. Images flooded her mind, nights spent shivering under bridges, days trying to keep hope alive, the countless faces of people who struggled as she once did. Yet fear curled around her heart like a vine choking a budding flower. What if she failed? What if her past swallowed her whole? Steeling herself, she looked into the man's eyes. "I don't know, what if I mess it up? What if I'm not good enough?" "Then we'll learn together," he said, his gaze steady, offering warmth. "Every journey has bumps and hiccups. But you've already shown remarkable strength. You saved a life today, Sarah. That's the kind of heart we need." The passion in his voice lit a spark within her. Encouragement from someone who understood. That was rare. Taking a deep breath, Sarah reached out and grasped his hand. It felt solid, grounding. "Okay," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I want to help. I want to make a difference." Applause erupted yet again from the crowd, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just for her bravery, it was for the future she was beginning to envision. With Lily beaming beside her, Sarah felt a lightness, as if a weight had been lifted. But just as optimism began to settle over her heart, a part of her resisted, whispering doubts like a persistent echo. This was a new route, a new story. How could she be sure she wouldn't trip again? As the crowd began to disperse, reporters still jockeying for interviews, the man in the suit leaned in closer. You know, Sarah, real change starts with honesty. Sharing your struggles openly can help break stigma. Have you thought about what this could mean for your life? His question felt like a door opening wide, revealing the daunting path ahead. Her fears danced in the corners of her mind, the shadows of her past flickering like candle flames in a draft. Was she ready for that? In that instant, she saw more than just a crowd. She saw a community longing to connect, to understand. She could help others find their way out, just as she had found her footing today. But that commitment came with risks. Would she step boldly into the light, revealing every crack and wound, or retreat under the shield of her past? The uncertainty lingered as Sarah held tightly to the man's hand, her mind racing. What awaited her on the other side of that leap? With every heartbeat, she knew she had to face this challenge head-on. Could she turn the page on her story? Could she become the person she dreamed of being, the act of hope for someone else trying to find their way? The moment stretched before her, the tension thick. What truth would she uncover? What future awaited her if she dared to embrace the darkness and step into the light? Just then, a distant siren pierced the air, bringing with it a sudden reminder of the dangers still present. Sarah's heart leaped. Would her past follow her? Would she need to face it to truly move forward? With her hand still clasped in the older man's, she felt the weight of the moment. She was at a crossroad, and how she chose would define not just her life but also the lives of others who looked up to her. Are you ready for this? The man asked gently, sensing her internal battle. Sarah paused. The siren fading into the distance as she took a deep breath. She had to decide now. Would she become the voice of courage for others, or for herself? And in that electric moment, she could feel the ground shifting beneath her feet, ready to propel her toward a new chapter, for the danger was not in falling but in never having the courage to rise at all. What would she choose? The applause slowly faded, but the echo of the crowd lingered in Sarah's ears, a soft reminder of the moment she'd just transformed. She looked down at the man's hand still enveloping hers, his grip reassuring yet firm. With every heartbeat, a quiet storm raged in her chest. Was she truly ready for this leap into uncharted territory? Let me introduce you to some people who can guide you, the man said, anticipation shining in his eyes. You're not alone anymore. The thought of stepping out of her comfort zone made her feel queasy. The meeting would be filled with accomplished individuals, people who had built their lives from the ground up. What could she possibly contribute? As neighbors filed past her, some shooting her admiring glances, she felt exposed. Lily squeezed her hand, her small fingers adorned with mismatched nail polish, grounding Sarah amidst her swirling thoughts. You're going to be amazing. You're already a hero. Hero. The word had a weight to it that felt unfamiliar. Could she live up to that? Let us not rush. The man's tone softened as if he sensed the burden of expectation weighing her down. Take it one step at a time, Sarah. It starts with sharing your experience. A shiver coursed through her. Sharing her story meant exposing her scars, battles she'd kept hidden under layers of shame. Could she bear to revisit those memories? The nights when she hardly ate, when fear kept her awake, and when hope felt like a distant joke. She is changing lives already, Lily chimed in, her wide, trusting eyes looking up at Sarah. She saved that boy. The moment flashed before Sarah's eyes, the boy, helpless in the blaze, and her sudden instinct to act. She felt warmth flush through her, she had done something meaningful. That spark, fueled by love and bravery, could ignite a fire of change. Sarah, the man said gently, breaking through her reverie, behind every great story is a journey filled with struggles. Your past doesn't define you. It shapes you. You can inspire everyone from your experience. The truth of his words clung to her heart. What if her darkness became the guiding light for someone lost in their own? Wasn't he that worth the risk? Taking a breath, she nodded, determination replacing hesitation. I'll share my story, she declared, the words spilling out with newfound vigor. But it won't just be mine. I want to include others. I want to start a movement, a community where people can support each other. Yes. Lily jumped up, clapping her hands. Like a superhero club. The man laughed, a deep, rich sound that echoed hope. That's the spirit. We'll begin by connecting you with local leaders, and you can be the voice of change. But just as excitement began to fill the air, a darker thought crept in. How would she handle the inevitable backlash? What if people judged her for her past? The lingering threat of ridicule wrapped around her like a familiar but unwanted cloak. Say the word and we'll protect you, the man said, sensing her anxiety. You'll have a support system behind you. Your voice matters. As he spoke, she felt a flicker of strength ignite inside her. No one would silence her. She was ready to break the silence and the stigma. Let us do it, Sarah said, conviction weaving through her voice. Great. Let us arrange that meeting. They started moving toward the crowd, but just as Sarah felt the rush of anticipation, a shadow loomed over her, a flash of a figure she recognized all too well. A pang of panic shot through her as old wounds threatened to bleed anew. Could facing her past be the key to unlocking her future? As she squared her shoulders, the figure approached with an intent gaze locking onto hers. Sarah, it was someone she'd never imagined she'd see again. What more would this person reveal about her past? How would this encounter shift the trajectory of her new path? Sarah's heart slammed against her chest as she faced the familiar figure stepping toward her. The streetlight cast an eerie glow, illuminating the contours of her past. It was Jake, a person she once knew too well, a face of heartache and regret. The memories flooded back, each one heavy with what-ifs and almosts, leaving her breathless. Sarah, he said, his voice a mix of surprise and a hint of something else. I saw the news. You saved that girl, a knot twisted in her stomach. She had thought the past was behind her, but here it was, rearing its head when she least expected it. What do you want? She asked, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. His gaze softened, and for a moment, the familiarity felt like an old, tattered sweater, comfortable but painful. I wanted to see you, he replied, stepping closer. I've been thinking about everything. I wanted to apologize. Sarah blinked, stunned. The man who had been part of her downfall was now asking for forgiveness. Apologize? She echoed incredulously. After all that has happened? I know, he continued, his voice dropping. I messed up. I was lost, and I dragged you down with me. But to see you like this, it's incredible. Don't act like this changes anything, she shot back, her heart racing. You can't just show up and pretend like the past didn't happen. But there was a flicker in his eyes, a glimmer of sincerity that began to stir a storm within her. I came here to say that I'm proud of you. You took your life into your own hands. That fire, it was heroic. Heroic, she scoffed, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. I'm just trying to survive. And you? You're the last person who gets to define me anymore. Maybe, he said gently, raising his hands in defeat, maybe I'm not trying to define you. But look at where you are now. You're inspiring people. You're healing. The words hung thick in the air, weaving their way through her defenses. Could it be possible that this moment of connection could shift her view of herself? She held his gaze longer than she intended, the shadows of resentment colliding with sparks of understanding. Do you even know what it's like to be where I was? She said, voice low and steady. When the world closes in and you feel like there's no way out. I can't say that I do, Jake admitted, sincerity washing over his features. But I'm here now. And I want to help, if you'll let me. You don't have to do this alone. The tension in her chest began to loosen, and she let out a shaky breath, glancing back at the gathering crowd, still buzzing with anticipation. She could feel the weight of their eyes, waiting for something monumental. But could this encounter truly transform her narrative? Jake stepped closer, genuine concern etched on his face. I understand I'm not the person you want to see right now, but I'm ready to support you this time. I still care about you, Sarah. His words pierced through her defenses, reaching the core of her heart. Instead of pushing away, she began to see a glint of potential, a chance for healing not just for herself but also for him. What do you mean? She asked cautiously. I want to help you reach out to those organizations, he offered, his voice earnest. I've turned my life around too, and maybe we can do it together. For an instant, Sarah envisioned a life rebuilt, one where both of them could find a new purpose. But the fear crept back. Could she truly believe his intentions, or would she falter and land back in the darkness? Taking a breath, she let the heaviness of the past rest on her shoulders for one final moment. Then, a spark ignited within her, fueled by the memories of bravery she had summoned today to save Lily. It's not about you, Jake, she said firmly. It's about the people who need hope right now. If you're truly here for me, prove it. Show up when it counts. His nod conveyed a mix of determination and remorse, lifting the weight on her heart. In that moment, it felt like the pieces of her life were coming together. With a deep breath, she turned to the crowd, a sense of empowerment swirling in her chest. Everyone! She called, raising her voice, feeling the warmth from Lily at her side. If I can rise from my struggles, so can you. We can create change together, and I want to be the voice for those who feel trapped. The energy surged through the crowd, and they erupted into cheers. Lily clapped her hands in delight, her eyes sparkling with pride. Jake stepped back, watching with newfound admiration. This is what you needed, he whispered softly, mirroring the light growing within her. As the warmth of connection ignited around her, she felt the last remnants of doubt flicker away. Together, we can change the narrative, she said, heart full. Not just for me, but for everyone who feels unseen. The applause washed over her like waves, louder and brighter than the shadows of her past could ever drown out. It wasn't just a step toward her future, it was a leap. A leap toward hope, healing, and a new beginning. As she looked around, the crowd felt like family, eyes glimmering with understanding and strength. Somewhere in the depths of her heart, she knew she was ready to embrace the journey ahead. With a smile stretching across her face, Sarah felt free. And in that moment, she knew, her story was far from over. It had just begun. Now, more than ever, it's time to inspire change. You need to subscribe now for more incredible transformations like this one. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and help spread inspiration across the globe. Comment below with your feelings about Sarah's journey. What is your biggest takeaway? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear this powerful message. Don't wait not even one more second to help spark hope.